Supreme honors to our ancestors who took the knowledge from ancient Egypt and went and civilized the planet. Today is 7/11. And 7/11 is the year that our ancestors begin the campaign of Isof, law and master, being universal to all. And that where Islam is, everything else is able to flourish there in peace and harmony with Islam. Not the stuff that they're showing you today, calling that Islam. Not the stories they tell you about people with fezzes cutting off people's hands and stuff like that. Right? We want to just acknowledge the ancestors, give thanks, and know that as the ones that came after you, the legacy is not going to die. We're going to keep the legacy alive at all times and show that the Moorish legacy is universal and everybody is tied to the Moors. And that's the only way the world is getting out of any of this mess that it's in. So give thanks to the ancestors. But what we're on here for today is because yesterday I was on Raspy Rawls live, and I realized that he took down the live because, you know, you can't cut and splice stuff here, so once it's up, it's up. So they realized that they weren't going to pull their little, you know, look up Indian in the law dictionary, look up Moor in the law dictionary, and stop there. Like, we don't play those ones because we got law dictionaries too. And because we have law dictionaries, we know when people are lying. But we're not going to deal with law right now. We're going to put law to the side for a second. And we'll just deal with this historical aspect of who are these people called Indians? When they say the Indians of the Americas, the Native Americans, the tribe of whoever, who really were these people? What is it? What's the consensus of these people? Now, remember, we were on Raspy Rawls yesterday. He admitted on there, oh, Canaanland Moors, yeah. I heard about you. Good. I'm glad you heard. I'm glad you heard. So let's see how serious these people really are about this, debating the Moors of are we what, are we this, are we that, are we whatever, but we're not Moors. Let's just deal with Indian today. Let's just see what happens when we do some research with regard to this Indian thing. Right? So this is the Spanish conquest in America. Arthur helps. It's our first reference point. Remember, don't debate Moors. Go debate the people who is presenting this information that our people are trying to get you not to accept under the guise that they're some scholar because they just got a law dictionary yesterday. During the time of war, those Indians who were made prisoners were considered slaves and were called Indios de guerra. How come they don't tell you about that? How come they never brought that up to you? that Indians were called that. Slaves. That's what you want to be? You want to be slave? Alright. Just the same as when the Spaniards made war upon the Moors of the Barbary, the slaves in that case being called Berberiscos. Now, why are they making a relation to the conquest of the Indians in the Americas and the conquest of the Moors in the Barbary if both of them weren't the same people? Why are they relating them? Why are they using this generic term Indians? They're not saying Cherokee or Cherokee. If they say Indians, that means they're talking about, what did Black's Law Dictionary say? The Aboriginal Indigenous people of the Americas, right? That's what Indians is according to Black's Law Dictionary, right? The Aboriginal and Indigenous people, right? Oh, okay, all right, cool. So, well, all these Aboriginal and Indigenous people have a history of getting slaughtered by Europeans. Them being slaughtered by Europeans is related to the Spaniards' war upon the Moors of the Barbary. Not the blacks of the Barbary, not the Africans of the Barbary, not the whatever we call ourselves, ancient black whatever of the Barbary, the Moors of the Barbary. And again, they're making a generic word, Indians, so that means they're talking about all the Aboriginal and Indigenous people in the Americas. There's not a tribe called Indians. When they say Indians, they talk about all of them. Just like when they say Moors, they talk about all the people. Ask yourself the question, because that's the problem with today. These people don't challenge your thinking. They have their BS about, I'm just here to make you think and all this stuff, and they forgot to add on the part like them. I'm just here to make you think like me. That's not what this is about. This is about you studying. And you coming to a realization that you can't escape. You can't escape the connection to the Moors. Can't escape it. And if you're someone who's sincere, right, you're not gonna bypass 700 years of history of your ancestors to tell me about some history before that, when the people who are known as Moors were the ones that were the custodians of the knowledge from the people before them. If you're sincere. If you're a clown-ass nigger like these guys, Raspy, Rawls, and he's chilling with the guy who's going around grabbing people's dick and shit like that, that's his boy? His boy is the dick grabbing guy? His boy is the dick grabbing guy. And you really expect me to take these people serious for my mental liberation? You're tripping. You must be tripping. The guy who's friends with the dick grabber guy is who you're telling me we should listen to in order for us to be free mentally and emotionally and spiritually and financially and every other way that we want to be free. That's the guy we should listen to. The guy who hangs out with guys who get caught with trannies and get sued and stuff by trannies. That's his boy. That's his boy. That's how they know they got you messed up. They're playing with you like there's some, oh, well, he's a Laker and we like the Lakers, so that's our boy. How long has he been grabbing dicks and you're just cool with that? Because that was just, that was just Allah exposing people. Because there's no way he expected to get caught grabbing a guy's dick on the bench right? There's no way. There's no way he thought he would get caught. But he got caught. Cameras everywhere. Everybody's watching you. This guy is hanging with the dick grabber guy and talking BS about Moors. You're hanging with the guy who likes trannies and you're talking crazy about Moors? And then you have your little thing set up like, well, we're not gonna let him get on here because this is our platform. Since this is our platform, we don't need to have him get on here. Hold on a second, but you're talking BS about Moors, and then you're not going to let Moors get on the platform to defend themselves? Like you're just going to talk crazy on your platform because you got it? You're just going to talk crazy on your platform, and then Moors are in the chat, but you're not letting the Moors push the thing to get on to address the BS. You know, not like you need to. That's your platform. But that's some hypocritical shit right there. You're talking crazy about Moors, but then when Moors want to show you how you're crazy, no. You're not never going to give the Moors a chance. How come? How come they never gave the Moors a chance last night? There was a few of us on there. How come they never gave us a chance last night? Why? Why didn't they allow us to push the button? Because they know that they don't got nothing on the Moors. It's nuts. What they got on the Moors? Turks, Moors, and Englishmen in the age of discovery. Nabil Matar. People are playing you. We're telling you they're playing you. We're not assuming. If you want to play games, then you go right ahead. You go right ahead. But we're not playing no effing games. We're Moors. Defoe's proposal is important because it marks the transition of the conflict between Christian Europe and Muslim North Africa, and Levant from the religious to the commercial, from a holy war to a trade war, from a battle to invasion. It further demonstrates how the model of the conquest of the American Indians was continuing to inspire British imagination and ideology. The conquest of America had set the pace for the conquest of the rest of the world, just as the English and other Europeans had conquered America by displacing and annihilating its idle and sodomitical population of Indians. They were also to conquer the non-trading and lascivious Moors and Turks. Given that the Moors and the Indians and the other ethnic groups all appeared the same, they were either consumers or natives to be dominated or removed. There is no obstacle to duplicating and triplicating the American process elsewhere. Why are they relating the Moors to the Indians? Because they're the same people. An Indian comes from Christopher Columbus landing in India. So the people, he said, are Indians. That's where Indian comes from. Christopher Columbus. There weren't no Indians before 1492. There were no Indians before 1492. Indians came from 1492. Before that, no such thing as Indian. So for these dick grabber guys to tell you that you're not Moors, you're Indian, they're selling you out. The Moors are not Indians, but the Indians are Moors. You know that shit. The Moors are not Negroes, but the Negroes are Moors. The Moors are not black, but the blacks, trust me, they're Moors. The Moors are not Indians. Because even in India, the Moors are called Moors, not Indian. Think about that. There's a place called Sri Lanka. And there's people in Sri Lanka that aren't called Sri Lankan. They're called Moors. Why are they people who saying, oh yeah, I'm Ceylonese, and then these other people saying we're Moors? And they look just like the people who are saying that they're from Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, whatever. How come when you go to Pakistan, all the mosques there are Moorish architecture? Why isn't it Pakistani architecture? How come it's not Pakistani architecture? Because the Moors taught the world. It's not some Moorish science temple or whatever like that. The hell are you people talking about? People have played you. If you don't have this one, this is a must-have for all Moors. We are all Moors by Anwar Majid. If you want a pale Europeans book to buy, a pale Arab book to buy, here's a good pale Arab book right here. We are all Moors. Formal annexation of the kingdoms of the provinces of New Mexico into the Spanish Empire on April 30th, 1598 by Juan de Onate was described by Gaspar Perez de Villagra, the captain, as an act of baptism of the province's barbarians in the epic poem Historia de la Nueva Mexico. The Pueblo Indians of New Mexico are compared to the Moors. The Pueblo what? What's that say right there? The Pueblo what? Indians of New Mexico are compared to the Moors. Why? Why are they comparing some Pueblo Indians to the Moors? Oh yeah, because they're the same people, dumbass. That's why. They're not Indian. They're Moors. Oh, you still not? Alright. Let's see what else we got here. Y'all playing effing games. Playing games. Let's see what's going on here. Just double check this. Following Christopher Columbus's discovery, oh yeah, this is the Outback versus the Wild West, Jack Drake. And you see, we're not just using Black's Law Dictionary only, like a dumbass, right? We're giving you different reference points so you can go fact check and see if what we're talking about is some BS. Right? Following the Christopher Columbus discovery of America in 1492, Hernando Cortez brought the horse to Mexico in 1519, and the first cattle were introduced 2 years later by Gregorio de Villalobos. Somewhere in history, the name Moor, which originated in the blending of Arabs and Berbers, became applied to Negroid people, and America's first cowboy is reputed to have been a Moorish slave of mixed Spanish-Negro descent belonging to Cortez. So all those first cowboys that you see and all that stuff, those were Moors. When Spain first occupied Mexico, it was not deemed prudent to allow enslaved Native Americans access to the horse. To be found in possession of an equine meant instant execution, and considering the skillful adaptation to horsemanship made by the plain tribes in later years, the ruling certainly served Spanish interests. Still, as riders were needed to control the expanding herds, black slaves became the first vaqueros, cowboys, and were often branded by their owners like the stock they cared for. The Spanish conquistadors and wealthy free settlers who followed them established huge ranchos after conquering the Indian tribes. Soon laws were relaxed, allowing Indians to acquire equine skills as more and more herdsmen became necessary. So the Indians working with the Europeans? Because that's what this is saying right here. The Spanish conquistadors, who were the rulers, the conquerors, the conquistadors, the metal hat guys, they allowed the Indians. I thought they're sovereign and they could do their own stuff and all that. How are they getting allowed by a colonizer to do something? Oh, that was after the fall, right? Because before the fall, they were known as Moors, and they ran over here. Ran over here. Native American Dance Steps by Bessie Evans, Mae Garretson Evans. The Matachia dance, Miss Roberts says further, is given at Christmas and Santa Clara Pueblo. To quote the words of my Indian informant there. Indian informant? Okay. The Santa Clara people got the Matachina dance from an old man at San Juan. Up there, though, they have a Mexican play, the violin, but not at Santa Clara. I think the old man made it up. He is dead now. Osemo is the name of the old Indian father. I think he danced that dance, for it is an Osemio dance. Osemio used to live up in El Rito. He was a great-grandfather of all the Indians. He was a great-grandfather of all the Indians. Right? Osemeo, look him up. Right? Osemeo. From up there, he went to Old Mexico, and there is where he lived. He is just like a spirit. He would come up every June 24th and go to El Rito to see his mother. She is spirit too. The Indians might see him, but they don't know him. He is dressed and looks like a Mexican, got boots and spurs and rides horseback. The Indian from whom the dance steps were learned, when asked concerning the origin of the Matachines, said, "It is the Montezuma's first dance." And he added, "I don't know just what it means, sensible Indian. As to the Moorish origin of the Matachines, the name itself is not without suggestiveness. The Spanish word for Matachin is defined variously: a buffoon, a grotesque mass dance or a performer in the dance, a butcher, a slaughterman, or any or all of these terms, by the way, may well be applied to the Indian form of the dance. And the theory that traces its origins to the Moors, the Arabic conquerors of Spain, is given weight by the fact that according to etymologists, the Spanish matachin is derived from mutawajin or mutawajin, an Arabic word meaning maskers or assuming mass. But be it said, whether the prototype of this bizarre product is Moorish or Spanish, Aztec or Pueblo, pagan or Christian, a farce or a tragedy, a bullfight or a sacred symbol, or is compounded of all, the artistic North American Aborigines have somehow succeeding in blending the whole into an engrossing ceremony. So the grandfather of all the Indians told these people that the Indian dance that they do come from some people who etymologists say is not indigenous word, that's Arabic word. Is Arabic word? I thought they're Indians. Why are they speaking Arabic if they're Indians? Since when you know Indians speak Arabic? Every time you see Indian, how come you're not questioning certain things? But that's why you always get played. Journal of American Folklore. We were just talking about Mexico, right? Mexican life is one of Moorish origin. How come it's not one of Indian origin? How come Mexican life is not one of Indian origin? Well, Mexicans aren't Indians? Of course they are. They're Aboriginal and indigenous to the Americas. What are you talking about? So if Mexicans are Aboriginal and indigenous to the Americas, then how is it that Mexican life is of Moorish origin but not Indian origin? You keep listening to these Indians. They're liars. That's just what it is. The Indian guys, the guys who say they're Indians, black Indians, and they do powwows and all that stuff, Lenape and all this, all of them are liars. Because if a Mexican's life is one of Moorish origin, then everybody who's Aboriginal and indigenous to the Americas' life is of Moorish origin. So don't let these people tell you any BS about we're not Moors. We're not Moors, please. Decolonial psychoanalysis towards critical Islamophobia studies. Robert Bashara. The men of Hernan Cortez and Francisco Pizarro, some of whom had taken a direct part in the struggle against the Muslims, either in Africa or Spain, called the Indian temples Mezquitas, which means mosque. Why are they calling Indian temples mezquitas? Now you call them teepees. Then they call them stuff that, and then if you're saying mosque, if an Indian temple is a mosque, then wouldn't that mean that Indians are Muslims? And then of course you know Muslims means more, because every time we tell you that you're Moors, you're telling us you don't want to convert to a religion of Islam because you're not Muslim. So I don't want to be a Moor. So you know that Muslim is tied to Moors. But they're gonna play their little game. They don't know what we're talking about. We're just talking crazy, right? A chronicler like Jerez pointed out that the Inca army, in its formation and good order, recalled that of the Turks. The formation and good order of the Inca army came from the Turks. And then you already know the Turks are Moors, because every time we show you the Fez, I don't want that. Because Seti said they come from the Turks. So you already know that Turks means Moors. Okay, well the Inca army, they ain't worried about fezzes and bucket hats and all that stuff. They took the formation and order of the Turks. While you dumbasses sitting here being Negroes, listen to Negroes. Dude, they got a Moor shirt on, or they got a turban on, or they got a fez on, or whatever. You think they're about your liberation? They're not telling you this basic stuff right here, so you can put some things into your mind with the proper perspective, so you can do something with the info that you got. In brief, when the Spanish colonizer wished to describe the customs, rustic or Eden-like, of the newly discovered people, he usually brought to the mind the Moors. Gomara describes the singing and dancing of the West Indians as similar to Moorish festivals. These people are effing with you, huh? I'm telling you right now, these people are effing with you. Dick grabber tranny guys are trying to tell you that you're not Moors, you're Indian. And then everything we research about Indian always goes back to the Moors. Stop the dumb stuff, please. We're not those Moors that y'all used to like that. We're not those Moors. We're not those Moors. In 1613, its description was faithfully reproduced. The description of Montezuma's headwear being called the Moorish hat. Now, if Montezuma had a Moorish hat, you think he's Indian? Why would an Indian have a Moorish hat? Oh, that's not enough? Okay. In 1621, the word Indian was substituted for Moorish. And that's Albert Samuel Gatzer, 1888. In 1621, the word Indian was substituted for Moorish. Why wouldn't Raspy, Rawls, and these people tell you this? Why wouldn't they tell you this? Why do they want to try to keep you Indian? Indian's a substitute. You know a substitute? What happens when the substitute teacher comes to class? Nobody does their work, right? Everybody fucks around. Right? That's what happens on the substitute. So what's going on right now? Fucking around. Guys grabbing guys' dicks. Guys slapping each other's ass after they do a good play. And then you're telling me about we're not Moors? No. Yeah, exactly. It's fun time. You guys love fun time. So they could do whatever they want. Grab people's dicks on the bench. Well, that was 20 years ago. Alright. Playing games with you. So I sent this to him, but you know, obviously, you know, those dudes aren't serious about the people's liberation. You know, or they would have been here to prove all this stuff wrong. Remember, it ain't nothing to do with Moors or whatever. You know, we're just showing you other stuff that's out there. There's the website right there. Warlock Asylum International News.com. Right. Indian's a substitute. Indian's not real. Indian is a substitute. Published in 1864, The Indian Races of North and South America by Charles de Wolfe Brownell. The Indian Races of North and South America. The Indian Races of North and South America by this man right here. Right. Some theorists have indefatigably followed up the idea that we are to search for the lost tribes of Israel among the red men of America, and have found or fancied resemblances, otherwise unaccountable, between Indian and Hebrew words, ceremonies, and superstitions. Others have exhibited equal ingenuity in carrying out a comparison between the Moors of Africa and the Americans, claiming to establish a nearly affinity in character and complexion between the two races. They suppose the Moorish immigrants to have arrived in West India Islands or the eastern south of America, and thence to have spread over the whole continent. Now, the only way that they can say immigrants is if the Moors didn't know where they were going. The Moors know about the separation between the land. And that the separation is now an ocean. And when you start thinking about how the hell did a river turn into an ocean, and then where's all that water coming from? If that wasn't there before, where was that water at? You start realizing how much people have been playing with you, having your concepts warped because you're listening to the dumbasses. Listening to dumbasses. Published in 1855, Ethnological and Philological Essays by James Kennedy. James Kennedy states, on these grounds, Brian Edwards dissents very justly from this hypothesis, and observing that the Caribs seem to have been an entirely distinct race from other Indians, widely differing from them in physical appearance and manners, he framed an opinion that they were in reality of African descent, and that their ancestors had come across the Atlantic. Before referring to Brian Edwards, I had come to the same conclusion, from what had come under my observation of this people. Their general appearance and features, notwithstanding their straight shining hair, gave me the idea more of the African than the American Indian. And the fact of their having come from Africa was not, even according to Rochford's account, inconsistent with their traditions, as these merely stated that they had come by sea from a far country without distinctly hewing whether it was from the east or the west. So that's why they say Caribbean Sea and Caribbean, because all that was Moorish dominions. Because the Caribs are the Africans. But if Caribs are Africans, then why didn't they name the sea people from here? I say Indian Sea. Oh no, Indian Sea is on the other side of the world, where India is. You know, Indian anything over here. Why would they say Carib and then say, oh yeah, they're from Africa? How are they from Africa? Well, they came over here and they've been going back and forth for generations. Okay, so how you know they're from there? If they've been going back and forth for generations, how you know that's where they started from? What if they started from here and went over there and gave back and forth that way? Not the way of over there to here. Don't let these people tell you that you're not Moors, because they're selling you out. Selling you right back into slavery, like Noble Drew Ali said that they're going to do to you. So, if they got any issues, let's just do a quick recap. Go debate. Arthur helps. Nabil Matar. Anwar Majid. Jack Drake. Bessie Evans and May Evans. Journal of American Folklore. Albert Samuel Gatchett and Alice Cunningham Fletcher. Charles Clark Willoughby. Hilborn Thompson Crescent. Zelia Natal. Robert Bashira. And Warlock Asylum International News.com. So go debate them. Don't be putting up videos talking about Canaanland Moors, this and that. No. We didn't talk for ourselves today. We gave reference points. So please use the reference points when you're going to rebut, if you're going to rebut, because we already know all you people, you're not even PhD level. So, you know, we go behind the curtain and we just do our thing. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We're about to get off this. And then don't forget, send this to all the Indian guys, all the Indian people playing games. Make sure everybody's good, no questions. Islam Moors, happy 7-11 day. Honors to our ancestors, the Moors. Supreme honors to our ancestors, the Moors. The custodians of the founders of civilization that our people don't want to be. They want to be some niggas who want to debate Moors. Peace and love to all the Moors worldwide. Don't forget, 7-11 tonight right here. We're going to be doing the El Fire listening session at 7-11. And should be a good listening session. Should be good. Should be real good. So we're laying that down tonight. on 7-Eleven, at 7-Eleven, in honor of the ancestors, to show that yes, there is Moorish unity and all that. We know what's up. Peace and love to all the Moors. Honors to all the mothers worldwide. And we'll see y'all tonight. Peace and love, Moors. Islam. Oh yeah, and don't forget. Don't forget. When they try to bring their BS. In 1621, the word Indian was substituted for Moorish. Just keep reminding them of that one. Islam.